1 week down, another week to go. So let's go ahead, get into these running back rankums. Also, we're going to do some stardom sit-ems this week, some of our most favorable matchups, someone that is likely going to climb these rankings as the week goes on. And it's just our most favorable matchups. And we'll also get into sit-ems that we have for this week as well. So these are our running back one options here, our rankings 1 through 12. So Dalton, looking at these options 1 through 12, which one of these is a really favorable matchup that you're looking forward to in week 2?
Yeah, honestly, looking at the list, I'm probably going to take someone closer near the bottom of that 1 through 12 for we were thinking is going to be boom for week 2. And for me, that's Brian Robinson Jr. So I like Brian Robinson's share of opportunities in week 1, his matchup versus the Cardinals. He had 19 rush attempts going for 59 yards. It wasn't great, but to me, it wasn't bad. He was still efficient. And so if you have him this week, I would definitely put him in there. I would feel that you put him as your RB2. I would definitely try to keep him out of a flex spot because I think he'll still perform fairly well to put him in your RB2 slot.
Yeah, I like that. It's a fair assessment on him. Brian Robinson is a very interesting prospect. It's going to be nice to see if someone truly stands out as the RB1 for the Commanders, whether that be Brian Robinson or Antonio Gibson. Now, on my list here, 1 through 12, someone that I think has a true potential to climb up this ladder, although he is already pretty high, is Ramondre Stevenson versus the Miami Dolphins. Now, kind of two different things going on here. A lot of people are a little bit disappointed in Ramondre Stevenson's production this last week, where we saw him face the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, the Philadelphia Eagles have one of the top defenses, so we also need to keep that in mind. But if we look at how efficient he was, he had 12 attempts and only 25 yards. So a little over 2 yards a carry, not good at all. Not exactly what we're looking for. But on the flip side of that, if you have him in a PPR league, then you loved him a little bit more. He had 6 receptions, which was tied for the most on that Patriots offense. And that's a good sign. That's something that we like to see. Now, where I like his matchup versus Miami here is even last year, Miami struggled to stop the rush. They had the 4th most rushing yards allowed at 103 yards per game. Last week, they showed that they were kind of the same exact team. They allowed the most rush yards in week 1. Between Austin Eckler and Joshua Kelly, they had over 230 yards rushing. So I could see Ramondre Stevenson having a lot better production, not only on the ground, but then also continuing to be one of those top wide receiver or targeted options in this New England Patriots offense. So I really like him here. I think that I know right now we have him as our 5th best running back, but I think he's someone that could obviously eventually finish up there as a top 2 to 3 this week, depending on how everything comes out. So anyways, let's go ahead and show the back end of our top 24 rankings, 13 through 24. This is our list here. Which one of these running backs are you liking the most here for a week 2 matchups at a running back position?
Yeah, looking at this list, I think someone that really stands out to me is sitting there at our number 19 spot. I really like Jahmyr Gibbs versus the Seahawks. I think that this is a great opportunity for him. Looking back last week, week 1, I felt that Jahmyr Gibbs was incredibly efficient. I think he made great use of his limited opportunities. He ran hard and played way bigger than his size. And I just got some Alvin Kamara type vibes from him in week 1 with his debut versus the Chiefs. I felt that watching him with his rushes, he was very slippery and he just had a knack for just spinning off of arm tackles. So, and he just turns his legs. Like he's always just running. He's trying to grind out every yard that he can. He just has something he just wants to prove. So I really like that in a young running back. He had 7 rush attempts for 42 yards, which is 6 yards per carry, and 2 catches for 18 yards. So like I said, with his limited opportunities, I think he did very well. Now, David Montgomery, he had 21 carries for 74 yards, which was 3.5 yards per carry. So I'm kind of hoping the Lions will take a look at the film and the stat book this week and hopefully make some run share adjustments and try to get the ball into more of a playmaker in Jahmyr Gibbs. And so I'm looking forward to the Lions getting Gibbs more involved this week, especially in the passing game against the Seahawks, who just surrendered 334 yards passing to the Rams. So, yeah, I'm expecting Gibbs to get the ball anywhere between 12 and 15 times and breaking one loose the house for 6 in this home game versus the Seahawks. So I really like the matchup. I think this is going to be in Gibbs's wheelhouse, and let's just see if we can get a few more dump pass and slants to him from Jared Goff.
Yeah, I'm excited to see them get him more involved, especially since he was one of the more efficient running backs in a week 1, but very rarely used. So anyways, these are our 1 through 24 rankings for these week 2 running backs, but there's a couple people that didn't make this list, and I think most importantly, there's one name that you're probably looking back over all these 1 through 24 and they're like, how do I not see the Tennessee Titans running back Derrick Henry on this list? Derrick Henry for us is a sit-em option this week versus the Chargers. And it's weird saying that because if we look at how the Chargers did last season against the rush, they weren't good. They gave up the 6th most touchdowns, the 6th most fantasy points per game to the running back position, also the 5th most rushing yards. Now, this year, I think that they have a little bit more of a different approach on the offensive side of the ball. I think it is a very pass happy. I know people are going to say, well, the Chargers pass a lot too. But I think with Kellen Moore there, their goal is to run the score up. That is going to essentially eliminate Derrick Henry. And we saw that they were able to accomplish that. I know the Chargers didn't end up on top, but we saw where Tua Tagovailoa was he had the most pass attempts in week 1 of any quarterback, and that's just the style of offense the Chargers play is they want to go tit for tat with you. They don't want to slow pace a game. So every time they get the ball, they're looking to score. So because of that, I think that Derrick Henry is going to struggle a lot because Miami last week, they only had 13 rush attempts amongst their running backs. So Derrick Henry is likely to go above that number, but I think that Tennessee finds himself in a situation where they're saying, hey, we are down quite a bit. Let's go ahead and get away from this run attack, and we're going to have to do something else. And I think that we maybe see Tajay Sharp see a little bit more snap usage or a split usage for Derrick Henry and having a little bit more of a pass back here. So I'm out on Derrick Henry this week. He may burn me, and if he does, I don't think he goes any higher than maybe a running back 20 this week. I think that he's going to struggle against this LA Chargers defense.
Yeah, I think if he's going to burn you, he's going to burn me too. I think I'm out on him too. I think the Titans are going to be pushed up into a corner, and they're going to have to rely on Ryan Tannehill a little more. So that's just where I'm at. Now, looking at the list, here's someone else that I feel that who's not on there that I feel like we've talked about that is just going to be an absolute bust for week 2. I don't like the matchup, and it's going to be Cam Akers versus the 49ers. Cam Akers put up a lackluster of a performance with 22 rush attempts. Sounds great on paper. 22 rush attempts. If I just saw the attempts, I would think, oh, he probably had a pretty dang good game. But guys, he only had 29 yards in week 1 versus the Seahawks. 22 rush attempts, 29 yards. Hugely inefficient. He only had 1.3 yards average. And also, second year back to me, Kyron Williams just seems slightly more efficient. He only had 15 carries, which was still a decent amount, but he had 52 yards with that, and which was 3.5 yards average. And he also had 2 touchdowns. So I'm expecting the Rams to be playing from behind and relying extensively on Matthew Stafford's arm, which is going to put Cam Akers in the back seat once again. So with that being said, stay away from Cam Akers. I don't see anything good coming from anyone that's going to be playing this 49ers defense this year. So like I said, they'll be playing from behind, and Cam Akers will probably not even be a part of this game script this week 2.
It's going to be interesting to see if the Rams take a similar approach to how they did in 2022 last season, where they went through like waves of emotion with Cam Akers, and they're saying like, hey, you're the starter. No, never mind, you're not. Actually, you're mad. You may be a trade or cut candidate, and then all of a sudden he breaks out. Yeah, he's the lead back in that offense all over again. So it seems like we're leaning a little bit more towards the same thing. I have no idea. But one last person that we have as a sit option this week, and that is Alexander Mattison versus the Philadelphia Eagles. So I don't love any running back versus that Philadelphia Eagles team just because that defense is so good. Ramondre Stevenson struggled to get going against them last time, and I think that Ramondre Stevenson is a much better running back than Alexander Mattison. So I think Alexander Mattison is going to have a similar outing as to Ramondre Stevenson. And because of that, I find it hard to put him in as a running back 2 or even a flex option on my team unless you absolutely need him. If you are in a very small league, not a lot of bench spots, then I see it in a situation like that. But I do not love the idea of starting Alexander Mattison here. I think it's the same thing. Minnesota is going to find themselves in another one possession game where they're going to be slinging the rock quite a bit. And again, I don't see that the Alexander Mattison is going to get near the targets and receptions that we saw Ramondre Stevenson get last week. But Philadelphia, like I said, they've had a very solid rush defense. Last year, they've allowed the 11th fewest rushing yards to the running back position. Last week in week 1, they had the 9th fewest at 54. So I think Alexander Mattison struggles to get up around that 40 to 50 number in rushing yards. I don't see them really getting a lot of red zone usage. And if they do, it's most likely through the air. Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, KJ Osborne, TJ Hawkinson. I think that Alexander Mattison is going to be a very small percentage of this offense this week in week 2. So look to stay away from him. Look to stay away from these other players that we've said, but hopefully these rankings 1 through 24 help you out a lot as well. So anyways, hopefully you found some value in this, and let's get ready for week 2.
Rod the pine.